Big cities versus small towns. I can. I know I've lived in not too many small towns. I've lived in Denver. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived just outside of Milwaukee. Um, Stationed in Chicago. I lived in San Diego. So I know big city life and I know small city life. And I know rural country is very similar to small city life. We're not as, you know, and where I live now, it's so small. We don't have a post office, a gas station. We have a barbecue joint, and that's it. Um, there's guys on the corner sometimes sell boiled peanuts, which I'm not a fan of. Um, there's guys sometimes that sell watermelon, um, different produce, sweet potatoes, but it's really a community. You can have a peacock and no one's going to complain. You have roosters, you have dogs that bark. No one cares out here. Now, when I lived in the city of Dallas, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta, you know, many of you followed me for years know that I was raising chickens and rabbits, but then I got a new neighbor, renter, moved in and started complaining. This renter had Trump signs all over his yard, but he'd call the cops for my rooster crowing. All my other neighbors didn't care, but you know, that happened. Um, but you know, this Jason, I don't Arnett or something, Adrian, I don't know what his last name is. I only just recently heard about him. I don't listen to country music. Just because you live in the country don't mean you have to listen to country music. You know, so you know, I have neighbors that listen to R&B and hip hop music and stuff and blare it out on their. Doesn't bother me a bit. If I don't like it, I just go inside. You know, but we're all friendly. I'm having a little tiff with my neighbor a little bit, but if my neighbor needed help, I would help him. One of my neighbors. All my other neighbors I get along with. Some of them used to give me dirty looks because I was the first white person to live in this on this road. But his song has stirred up a lot of people, and I have people that are friends of mine that are upset over that song. And one of them's like, I can read between the lines. He's talking about black people. He isn't. In fact, I watched a video, and some of the video where he shows the riots going on, those are the riots in Atlanta that happened recently. Let me tell you about the riots in Atlanta if you don't know, because you probably, if you live outside of this area, outside of the deep south or, you know, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, maybe you don't hear the actual, what really went on there. What happened was there was a protest. Black people set up a protest. Not, well, it was a peaceful march, really, more of what it was. They were going down to downtown to the police station and just address their grievances, to let the media, to let the police know that they were not happy with the training facility. It was going to militarize the police. They didn't want the police to be militarized, kind of thing. And that was all well and good, but then news got out to Antifa, and Antifa is really a part of it. A group of white people from out of state came into Atlanta and started riots and started destroying businesses and destroying people's property and burning police cars. And one of them pulled a gun on a cop and got shot. And so they decided they were going to justice for this guy. And they even more of these people came down and got violent. And they took over the protest. The protest was no longer about, you know, black people saying that, you know, their parts of town are being over policed and now they're going to militarize the police. No, that the whole focus of that went away. And the focus was now on these white privileged kids that probably live on trust funds coming down here from all different states: California, Oregon, Tennessee, New York, Pennsylvania, coming down here to stir up trouble. Well, not down here because I'm not in Atlanta, but 3 hours away. But they came down to Atlanta to stir up trouble, just like they did in Kenosha and several other recent protests, Black Lives Matter protests. The black people have a legitimate bitch, in my opinion, that some of their areas are over policed, and that's how they feel. When I drove a cab in Atlanta, I would see it. If I was in a black neighborhood, you couldn't drive 2 blocks without seeing a cop. You drive into an affluent neighborhood, probably not all Atlanta's got black people, rich and poor, so you go in a rich neighborhood where white people, you won't see as many, or black people, you might not see as many cops. They talk more about the lower economic parts of town. Those places are over policed, but there are also a lot of crime, so it's kind of like both sides have a good debate, but but these white people that came down there from Antifa, that's not what they were about. They didn't care what the black people's concerns were. They were like, okay, there's protests going on, let's cause riots, let's cause mayhem. That's all they want to do. They want to take the system down, even though it provides jobs. A lot of black people lost their jobs because of these rich white kids that come down to Atlanta to stir up trouble. And that's not my opinion. That's what really happened. If they showed on the news all these people that got arrested, and there was like 100 some people, probably only 2 of them were black out of 100 people arrested. They were all white kids, almost all of them from out of state. And they're from big cities across the country. So really, the problem with the big cities, the violence has nothing to do with black people. And Whoopi Goldberg saying, what's he talking? He's talking about riots. He's talking about, carjackings and burning flags. And she's assuming, she said, well, who does that? The black people. So she admitted to being a racist. Even though she's black herself, she thinks that black people are the ones doing all these crimes, and that if you criticize that, then you're racist. No, Whoopi Goldberg's racist because she assumes black people commit crimes. And so most of the people who criticize that song are and attach race to it they're the ones who are racist. They're the ones assuming that black people are committing all these crimes. My community, which is smaller than a small town, is mostly black. And on my road, I'm the first white person to live on this road, since this road was built whenever it was built. It's just a dirt road, but, like most of the roads around here are dirt roads, and the main arteries that take you into the towns, those ones are paved. But, he has no idea, or they have no idea what they're talking about. Now, the one verse in the one word group of words in the song that did kind of make me think there was some racial overtones was when he said "the good old boys," because depending on where you are in the country, I remember when I was in Texas, and it was explained to me that good old boys were the white people. Down here, I haven't heard that term "good old boy" used anyway. So I don't know. Most people I know are black. They don't use the word "good old boy." So I don't know if "good old boy" is a racist term or not. That's the only line in the entire song that would even remotely be even considered to be possibly racist undertones. I do not believe that guy wrote that song thinking that he was, he was probably just thinking about white folk in small towns and white folk in big cities. It was white folk that January 6th. Those weren't small town folk. Those were city folk that stormed the White House. So these people are wrong. They're trying to stir up something. They don't like it because the truth is that they're offended because he's right about these big cities. Look at San Francisco. Look at Portland, Oregon, um, and places like that where the crime is just horrid. I mean, in Kansas City, people are pouring out of these cities. Businesses are leaving. People are leaving these cities. New York City, I think, they don't seem to be suffering as bad. Maybe Baltimore has been since the 50s. And look at Detroit. These are all Democrat cities. And look at the crime in these cities. Now, Atlanta, I don't know, it's probably worse than it was pre-pandemic. Seems like after the pandemic, man, the cities have gone to hell in a handbasket. Crime is up. Crime has been going down for a couple decades since the 90s. And then all of a sudden, post-pandemic, and now you got crime just skyrocketing. Portland, they decriminalized drugs. They cut back on the police, laid police off. I don't know if they gave them other positions or what. They have less police. The police don't even. I mean, I watched a video where they were interviewing business owners that have been robbed and said the police don't even come there when they're called. They don't even come and investigate or nothing. They just write it down and okay, you were robbed. Okay, we got it noted. They don't even come to collect evidence. I saw that video probably 6-7 months ago, but some guy that had a business downtown Portland keeps getting robbed. He's moving out. He's moving out. Some other city in Portland or some other area. Moving to the suburbs. I don't know where he's going. But, that to me is what the guy's singing about. Now this song would have just been another song that probably didn't do much. But because of the controversy, the song came out in May. And now it's the number one song on iTunes. It's like one of the top songs on all these other charts. And these liberals are having a fit. And it's not so much as the liberals, it's just people in big cities. In that same interview with The View, one of the other ladies on there said, you can't differentiate people from big towns, small towns. Obviously, this woman's lived in a big town all her life, if she says that. Because you can definitely differentiate small town folk from big town folk. Big town, it just takes your soul away. There's just so much stress. I mean, driving from one place to the other can be stressful. I drive to go to grocery shopping on Saturdays. No stress. I drive down country roads till I get to town. And I usually end up going to Eufaula. Sometimes I'll go grocery shopping up in Opelika. Sometimes I'll go to Columbus or Phoenix City. We go to, my wife had to go to the hospital to have, some kind of exam done, and we had to have it done in Troy. So we went to Troy. That's where the University of Troy is. It's a college town. We don't go shopping there, but that's where we go. No problem getting these places. We're not stressed by the time we get from one place to the other. When I lived in Dallas, Georgia, man, sometimes if I had to go too far, man, I didn't go grocery shopping very far. I only had to go 2 blocks to go to Walmart, or go to Ingles, which is probably about 2 or 3 miles. Or I could go to Kroger's or Publix, a little more, 5 or 6 miles. Here, and the traffic wasn't the greatest. If I, I had to go to these places. I had to go into Atlanta, man. Oh, golly. I drove a truck, so when I drove a truck in Atlanta, it's different because I'm getting paid by the hour. I'm getting paid to drive there. There's not that much. I don't get stressed out driving then. Not in a hurry to get there. I'm not delayed. I don't care if I'm delayed all that much. But you know, uh, when I'm, I don't know, when I'm driving to just go to the grocery store, I don't want to have to fight traffic to get there and people cutting you off. Because that's how they drive in the city. You know, in the city, one thing I don't understand. This happens in Atlanta a lot. I noticed people will pass you, get in front of you, and then turn right. I'm like, why do you have to pass me if you're going to turn right? You know, I never did understand what's the purpose of that. That's just I'm hitting my brakes and slowing down, coming to a stop for because someone wanted to go faster than me and he only had a block to go. It's like just get in the lane you're going to turn in and just travel in that lane and turn. But you know, it's just something gets in people's minds. You know, I've been robbed. I lived in San Diego. I had someone take the stereo out of my truck. I had a backpack that was left in my truck. It got stolen. I had a backpack stolen in Denver too once in my truck. Someone broke the window, stole my backpack, and I didn't even have anything in it worth anything. I had a couple books and a change of clothing. I used to carry a change of clothing. You never know what happens. You know, something could happen. You end up getting something splashed on you. It's always nice to have an extra set of clothes. I used to always keep a extra set of clothes. So someone stole my extra set of clothes, think they were going to get something valuable, I guess. It was a JanSport backpack, the one in Denver. The one in Atlanta, or the one in San Diego was, it was a free backpack I got from 7-Up. 7-Up had this display, and if you bought a 12 7-Up or 2 12-packs, and you got this backpack. And that one got stolen. Oh well. Live and learn, right? I remember the one in San Diego had my medicine in there, so I had to go to the doctor to get a new subscription or new prescription because they stole my medicine. Which, you know, that sucked too. It wasn't anything to get you high. It was just, you know, something I was dealing with at the time. It was actually migraine medicine. I was having migraines, and I haven't had them since. It must have been something in the water. I don't know. But anyway, you know, that's just my piece on that. There's nothing racist. The people who are claiming it's racist are the racist. And I believe that to be true. I believe that song is exposing left-wing racism. See, I always believe that, you know, racist doesn't care what your skin color is, your ethnic background, your status, you know, blue collar, white collar. It doesn't differentiate whether you're Democrat or Republican. There's probably just as many racists in both parties. I try my hardest not to be racist. If there's racist ideas that I'm holding that I was brought up with that I may not know, hopefully I'll find out and I can purge those ideas. Because we're all in this world together. Small towns in the South, there's black people live in any small town you go in the South. You know, some small towns are almost all black, and very few small towns are all white. And I don't know what state this guy's from, what small towns he lived in. You know, whether he was Texas or Tennessee or where he was from. The country singers, I don't know where they all come from. Missouri, I don't know. But anyway, it really doesn't matter. The whole idea, you know, these people who are criticizing him don't realize that there are black people that own farms, that own ranches. I knew ranchers out in Texas that were black. You come out here, there's a lot of farmers. People own land that grow cotton or peanuts or grow timber, and a lot of them are black. This stretch of the country was, you know, where that 5 acres and a mule that was given to black people from after the Civil War A lot of that took place in here. So a lot of these properties around here were owned by black people and that were in their families for a long time. And there are black people who worked real hard and saved their money and bought land and farmed it. And then bought more land, expanded their farm, just like white people do. So it just shows the disconnect of the talking points for the left-wing media. And I'm not criticizing left-wing, right-wing, because I don't really fall into either category. It depends on each issue. Some issues I can be more liberal. Some issues I can lead more to the left because I'm a free thinker. I don't have to fit into a box and have to, okay, that's their issue. Like, I really give a shit about abortion. The whole abortion issue, I don't give a shit one bit about that one. Gay rights, I think gay people should have same rights as everybody else. That's all they want, so and trans people, I don't care what trans people do as long as they leave the children alone. Don't confuse our children. Let our children become adults and make those kind of decisions. I mean, I could go into sports, but I'm not going to. But, people just do what makes you happy. If you live in a big city and you like all that mayhem, that's fine. Go ahead. Don't accuse us of being ignorant and stupid because we're from the South or from small cities. And I'll leave with one side note. There's a black woman in Atlanta who works for NPR, in the Atlanta NPR station, and she was telling her story how she grew up in Atlanta, and when she was in high school, her mom moved up to New York City, and she was like valedictorian. She was like the top of her class, had the best grades in her school. And when she moved to New York City, because she had a southern accent, they put her in special ed. And she knew if she was in special ed, she wouldn't be able to go to college. And so her family had to put money together to put her in a private school because the public school condemned her for being southern. And I've talked to people on Facebook and online, and when I tell them that I'm from the South, they automatically assume I'm not very intelligent. That's the bigotry that Whoopi Goldberg and those restless people in The View are part of. That's their mindset. How dare you say people in the small town are better than people in big cities, because to them, we're less than they are. Do you understand now? Y'all have a good day.